first case study is a large contracting group that was struggling to standardize the way that time and payroll information was captured and calculated. They had an ERP system. It was a construction-focused ERP system. That was J.D. Edwards, but it wasn't flexible enough to accommodate the specific requirements for their multiple subsidiaries, the multiple projects, and different branch offices that they had throughout North America. So their reality was the inability to standardize resulted in disparate systems, again, the spreadsheets, custom applications, even paper-based solutions. And they calculated that it cost them about $175,000 per year in inefficiencies. So our next poll question is your timesheet process consistent across the company? So we have about 80% of attendees saying that the process is not consistent across the company. So to follow that case study through with the implementation of DTC, it was flexible enough to accommodate the project-specific requirements that they had of the different subsidiaries, different projects, different customers that they reported to, and they were able to implement this common platform across their entire organization. So the benefits were that time and payroll data for all 12 subsidiaries and all 55 branch offices was captured in one common system, was validated and submitted to payroll weekly, and they were able to improve or reduce the percentage of errors and improve efficiency of the data capture and payroll process. Working with them, we calculated the ROI at 8 months, and they were able to save about $150,000 annually. The sort of behind-the-scenes story on that was they had a person in their payroll department that was retiring, and just after DTC was implemented, that person retired, and they did not need to replace that person with the implementation of DTC. They had also had a person that was dedicated to managing paid time off, and they had managed it in the spreadsheet, and it was pretty much a full-time job, as they had about 5,000 employees. So they managed paid time off in a spreadsheet. Was a full-time job. We were able to automate that process for them, and they reallocated that person to a different position because that was no longer required with the implementation of DTC. So one of the, I know we have one or two owners on the call today as well, and this is the savings for just one contractor. So imagine the potential savings for an owner if they could standardize this process for all the contractors on their sites. So the second case study we wanted to talk about was a large EPCM firm, which had a dozen, obviously with many different construction projects, many different owners. They had all sorts of different requirements for capturing and reporting time, dozens of pre-payroll items which needed to be managed and calculated prior to payroll processing. So everything from living out allowances, travel turnarounds, bonuses. They deal with I guess the best way to describe it would be scalable travel allowances. So if you live 30 kilometers outside of the area of that project, you get a different rate than if you live in that radius. So they were all managing that within spreadsheets, calculating it manually, and then reviewing it in order to enter it into payroll. Very inefficient, very manually intensive, and time-consuming. So with the implementation of DTC, they were able to automate the calculation of those items. They were able to submit reports on a daily basis to the owner with total cost, and then they were able to seamlessly integrate that with the ADP payroll system that they used. And I think we've got a question here. So someone just asked quickly what type of relationship we have with ADP, and I guess appropriate, this was a ADP case study that we did with them. We're a strategic alliance partner of ADP. We integrate with their technology, so we have standard integrations with their payroll and with their, they call it procure to pay now. It used to be a product called Open Invoice. It was owned by a company called Digital Oilfield, which ADP purchased. So we have a very tight relationship with ADP, and we understand their platform both from a payroll perspective and a procure to pay perspective, and we're able to electronically integrate with them. So we can send information to their systems and receive it back. So if there's a problem with the payroll, it comes back to DTC, we fix it, we resubmit it. And similarly on the invoicing side, which I'll touch on a little bit later, we can send it to their procure to pay application, and if there's any issues, it gets bounced back to DTC for correction and then resubmitted. So the third case study I wanted to touch on today was a contractor that specialized. This is probably the most dramatic case study we've got, but this was a contractor who specialized in shutdowns, and they really struggled with the administration of the timesheets and paperwork, and they were continually late in submitting their payroll, and on 2 separate occasions they were fined in excess of $125,000 for late payroll. So they had fines of, in a single year, of $250,000, and they also had up to 4 administrators on site dealing with the collection of the timesheets and the submitting of those timesheets and those reports to the owner. We also found that if a timesheet came in incomplete, they were setting it aside to deal with it at a later date, which never seemed to arrive, and so the owner was not getting the full picture of what was going on in site and what costs were being consumed on a daily basis. Again, the behind-the-scenes story on this was they had done a shutdown in Fort McMurray, and they had botched up the administration side of things, and they were sort of blacklisted. And so they had contacted, 5 years had passed. They had been invited to bid on a shutdown in Fort McMurray. They were awarded the shutdown, and they called us in and said, look, we cannot have any mistakes on this shutdown because it's costing us in fines, but also we get taken off the bid list essentially if we don't do a good job. So we implemented DTC. With DTC's rapid data entry screens, the contractor was able to quickly and easily capture, calculate accurate payroll and daily cost information for the owner. And we were submitting it electronically to the owner, and we were submitting it electronically to J.D. Edwards for payroll processing. It was a $30 million shutdown, and we were able to run it with 1 administrator on site. And again, we submitted the payroll electronically to JDE on a weekly basis. We were never late. And we submitted the information electronically to the owner. It was TransDelta was the owner, and electronically into their system. And they approved it daily. There were no disputed invoices and no delayed payments on this job. And so they were, again, like I said before, they were sort of blacklisted after this job was over. They were invited back, not the following year, but for the following shutdown. So the ROI for them on this one was 45 days. So with that, our fourth poll question is, do you believe the current timesheet process within your organization could be improved upon? So 100% of the attendees agree that their timesheet process can be approved upon. So I wanted to talk a little bit about DTC's return on investment. And DTC is easy entry. We've got the ability to do rapid data entry, so it reduces field and office administration. We have electronic integrations to payroll and to owner systems. And it's a centralized system. So from an IT perspective, you can back up the database. You can guarantee that you've got proper roles and security in place. And it's supportable. If somebody phones with an issue, you can log into that system and help troubleshoot. The other thing is scalable, and I think we've all seen a lull in the construction industry the past 18 months or so, and we all know that it's coming back. And you know, with the implementation of systems like DTC, you're going to be in a much better situation to scale with the upcoming work that is inevitable. We've, from an ROI perspective, we've been able to boil it down to about a 25 cents per man-hour savings. And if you look at that annually for a crew as small as 50 people, that's about $27,000. And you know, we're certainly willing to put our money where our mouth is and guarantee similar savings for anybody who signs up with us. And the way that we're able to provide that type of ROI is through, again, intimately knowing the industry from the ground level up, and designing software that's specifically designed to streamline and facilitate this particular process. So this is an example of our time entry screen, and you can see the pop-up box on the right. We're able to configure this screen by user profile to meet the specific data capture requirements that that individual has. So just a quick example, if the person wants the last name first, or the first name first, or the personnel code first, it's totally configurable by user. We have a number of fields that can be added or deleted to the screen depending on the contractual terms of that job. So if you have double time and a half, we can add double time and a half. But if you're on a job that doesn't have double time and a half, you don't need that field on your time entry screen. So it's very configurable. It's not customizable in the traditional sense of customizing the software, but very configurable to each specific user requirement. We also have rapid data entry, so we have the ability to set up timesheets by crew, by trade, by shift, whatever suits your data entry needs. And with as much effort as it is to enter time for one person, you can be entering time for an entire crew or an entire trade on a job.